Hello guys, this is Prime Concept. You're welcome once again to my channel. I'm preparing you for NECO 2026 Practical Chemistry. And we are doing all our best to see how we can get every area as NECO would come from. And I want you to watch all the videos I have made concerning your practical chemistry NECO 2026. These are enriching videos, and if you are loaded with all of these concepts, trust me, you can't be stranded in the exam hall tomorrow. And I'm wishing you great success with this opportunity. So let's take a look at these 12 very important questions that they can ask. They can pick any one or two of them and ask you tomorrow. So let's see how we can prepare and get ready for their questions against tomorrow. Remember, if you're watching me and you are yet to subscribe, do well to hit the subscribe button. Always like our videos. Don't forget, it helps YouTube to push our videos to other people that may be interested in this content. Drop a comment, tell me your areas of concern, and then ask any question you want to ask that you're confused about, and would attempt your questions. Now, question number one, we have 12 areas that we're going to answer. I'm going to answer them very fast, so this video is not too long. Question number one, why is HCl added to barium chloride test? And the reason why you add HCl, remember in this salt analysis, they would ask you to one portion of your solution, you should add barium chloride. When you add barium chloride, you would notice a white precipitate, which is common for anions such as sulfate, sulfite, sulfide, and carbonate. They would give white precipitate with barium chloride. But then, to distinguish which of this anion is actually present, you add HCl. So HCl is added as a distinguishing reagent, and then when you add HCl and you observe white precipitate, it means that sulfate is actually what? Present. So take note of that. HCl is actually used as a confirmatory reagent for sulfate in this case. Now, question number two, why is methyl orange used? Of course, very quickly, I want you to understand that when you're carrying out your titration experiment, you can have a strong acid against a strong base. Now, let me run this down for you. If you have a strong acid titrating against a strong base, any indicator can go, any suitable indicator can go. Methyl orange would go, phenolphthalein would go, bromothymol blue would go, bromothymol red would go. Any of the indicators would serve. So it means there's no special reason why this is actually used, because in this titration we have a strong acid against a strong base, so anyone can go, right? Yes. What about if you're dealing with a strong acid against a weak base? You use what? Specifically methyl orange. When you're dealing with a weak acid against a strong base, what do you use? You use phenolphthalein specifically. Then when you're dealing with a weak acid against a weak base, there is no suitable indicator. How do I remember this? I remember it using AMP. Any suitable indicator, methyl orange, phenolphthalein, and finally AMP none. Finally, no suitable indicator. And for me to use this, I arrange it from strong acid to strong base, strong acid, weak base, weak acid, strong base, weak acid, weak base. That is how I arrange it. When you arrange it that way, then A would mean any indicator for strong acid against a strong base. So take note of what I've explained. Now, question number three, what causes the deep blue solution? Right now, what actually causes your deep blue solution is when ammonia is added to the solution in excess. Remember, when you add ammonia in drops, it gives you a light blue precipitate. But when you add ammonia in excess, the precipitate dissolves and it gives you a deep blue coloration or solution. So that is ammonia in excess. Take note of the point excess. Now, question number four, why does blue precipitate turn black? Of course, the reason why the blue precipitate turns black, remember, to the first portion of your solution, you'd be required to add sodium hydroxide. When you add sodium hydroxide, you're going to get copper 2 hydroxide. So that's what you're going to get, which is a blue solution or a blue PPT. Now, when you heat that, what you're going to get copper oxide, which is actually black, right? So the reason why it turns black is because your copper hydroxide is breaking down into copper oxide, and copper oxide is black in color. So that is what happens. Now, question number 5. What do you rinse your burette with? Now, before you start your titration experiment, you would be expected to rinse your burette. Now, most students think that when you want to rinse anything in the lab, you use distilled water or you use water. No, there are apparatus you can rinse with water, and there are certain apparatus you don't rinse with water. And I want you to take note of this. For your burette, you don't rinse it with water. You actually rinse your burette with the solution that it would contain. So in this case, your burette would contain what? Acid. So it means your burette should be rinsed with what? Acid. And then, why do you even rinse it with acid and not with water? Remember, if you rinse your burette with water and then you add acid to that, what you'll be doing is that you'll be diluting that acid to a lower concentration than what is required. So instead of rinsing with water that can dilute your acid, you rinse with the acid so that it does not affect the concentration of the acid. Now, what is the next one? Question number 6. What do you rinse your pipette with? Similar thing is applicable to our pipette. Now, your pipette is also rinsed with the solution that it is going to pipette. Of course, your pipette in this case is used to collect your base, which is your sodium hydroxide in this case. So it means that to rinse your pipette, you use what? Your base to rinse your pipette. So you would usually rinse your pipette with the solution it would contain. For the same reason, if you use water to rinse it, you might end up diluting your base below the concentration that is required. So, and somebody may ask, even if it is not yet, that is a bonus question, and I want you to drop the answer in the comment section. If you know the answer and you know the reason. Your conical flask. What do you rinse your conical flask with? Now remember, your acid is going to go into your conical flask. Your base is going to go into your conical flask. So what is the best substance to rinse your conical flask with? If you know the answer, drop it in the comment section. Thank you. Now let's look at question number 7. Question number 7 is, why use a white tile? In your titration experiment, you would usually place a white tile below your conical flask. Why do you do that? The reason why you put your white tile is so that you can easily observe the color change in your solution. That is why you use a white tile, for transparency. So number 8 question, what are concordant title values? Concordant title values for your NECO or WIRE are values that fall within the range plus or minus 0.2 cm3. So that is what you call concordant title values, or values that are very close to each other within this range. So question number 9, what color is methyl orange in acidic medium? Remember, methyl orange would have different colors in different medium, in acidic medium, in neutral medium, and in alkaline medium. So a simple summary for that, I usually use the short form ROY to remember that. ROY, remember, I'm starting with acidic medium, neutral medium, and alkaline medium, ANA. Acidic medium, neutral medium, and alkaline medium. So in acidic medium, methyl orange is red. In neutral medium, it is orange. In alkaline medium, it is yellow. So ROY, from Roy Beef, your color of rainbows. Now, the next question, they said, what color is methyl orange in alkali? We have answered it. It is yellow in alkali. Question number 11, what is the formula for the black solid formed on heating copper hydroxide? When you heat copper hydroxide, just to give you the equation of reaction, when you heat copper hydroxide, CuOH, when you heat this, you would form, this would dissociate to give you copper oxide plus water. So this is what you'd have, and this is the black solid that is actually formed. So what happens is that copper hydroxide breaks down to give you copper oxide, which is a black substance. Now, question number 12, why can't sulfate be concluded immediately after barium chloride? Now, why don't you conclude that sulfate is present after adding barium chloride? Very simple. like I said earlier in question number one, when you add barium chloride to your sample solution, you would observe white precipitate. Now, when you quickly conclude sulfate is present, it simply means that you are overlooking other anions that can be present. So, why you don't conclude that is because there are other anions that can give the same white precipitate as sulfate. So, in order for you to conclude sulfate, you would need an extra reagent, which in this case is what? HCl. HCl, dilute HCl, is going to distinguish that. Thanks. I believe this whole concept is very clear to you. If you have enjoyed this video and it is going to help you, or it has helped you in no small measure, I would like you to share this video with your friends. Don't just watch without subscribing. Don't watch without liking the video. Don't watch without dropping a comment. Always support our channel, because we'll be bringing you a lot of enriching content. Remember, we are still here when you get into the university. Those of you that would want to apply for UNN, you want to gain admission into UNN, into SUMAS, into UNIZIK, I will be giving you information on how you can go about making your applications and things that are required in these universities. We are also here teaching first year courses like Maths 101, Chem 101, Physics 101, and so on. So thanks for always watching. This is Prime Concept. Success in your exam tomorrow. Thank you.